Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Stickler. I am the co-founder and chief medical officer of the Appear on Zoe Corporation, and I'm here today to talk to you about one of my favorite supplements, actually one that I formulated, which is called Upgrade. Now, Upgrade is a pre-workout formulation that I've been looking for something that could satisfy all the needs, and I ended up getting pre-workout powders that I would add stuff to because they didn't quite meet the full needs of what I was trying to find. So I formulated Upgrade. It took me quite a few years to actually flavor it the right way because a lot of these ingredients make it difficult to mask, but we got the perfect formula finally. And I'm going to tell you about the ingredients of this and why we have the specific ingredients that we do. So the first major ingredient is D-RIBOSE, and we use 3 grams of D-RIBOSE in this. Now, D-RIBOSE is a sugar that basically feeds directly into mitochondria. It was developed up in Boston many years ago to help people to get a kick towards the ends of marathons. They would give them tabs of this, and they would pop these tabs, and they would get a kick to finish out. And what they were doing is they were replenishing the ATP that the mitochondria were generating. And the studies on this have shown decreased perceived exertion and creatinine kinase levels, and creatinine kinase really goes along with exhaustion of muscle. They found that it enhances the recovery of the ATP in athletes that are using this. Now, one of the things we found, and we do a lot of genetics, we look at genetic variations in people, and there's one specific genetic variation that is impactful when it comes to athletic performance, and that is called the AMP-D1. And so when we find variations in this AMP-D1, we find that people aren't able to recycle ATP. So when mitochondria are producing energy, they take a phosphate group off of ATP and make ADP. And what will happen is that then gets recycled, so another phosphate is added to it to get more ATP production. And with certain genetic variations, that process is a little flawed, so they're not able to regenerate that, so they get fatigued much more quickly, and they build up greater muscle soreness. The D-RIBOSE in this is designed to give you that kick so that during your exercise you don't have problems with cycling of ATP. Now, the next ingredient is beta-alanine. And beta-alanine has been around in the bodybuilding realm for quite a while, but what we found when it comes to a pre-workout condition is it improved time to exhaustion. They studied cyclists, and they found that there was a 25% increase in time to exhaustion with supplementation of beta-alanine. Beta-alanine group had higher post time to exhaustion lactate levels, so what this indicated is that it actually raised lactate threshold, which was really cool. Similar findings were found in masters female cyclists with 28-day supplementation. They found a 23% improvement in this group in time to exhaustion, and interestingly, 24% lower lactate levels 20 minutes post time to exhaustion. So it was actually helping to clear lactate much faster. They also looked at collegiate wrestlers and football players. Now, this was an interesting study because the wrestlers were actually trying to lose weight, whereas the football players were trying to gain weight, and that they found lean mass increased in both groups. The lean mass in the football players, even though total weight went up, the ones that used the beta-alanine versus the ones that used placebo actually had greater lean mass improvements in the weight gain. Now, in the wrestlers, there was an average weight loss and lean mass loss in the placebo group, but the beta-alanine group actually gained lean mass. Next ingredient is branched chain amino acids. Now, we know how important branched chain amino acids are for recovery and muscle building, and one of the components of this is leucine. So branched chain amino acids are leucine, isoleucine, and valine. Now, valine and isoleucine are kind of cheap ingredients, but leucine is the most effective one. And when you get BCAA'S, you really want something in about a 3-to-1 ratio of leucine, isoleucine, valine. So we formulated this with that perfect ratio. Now, leucine is a bit bitter, and that's one of the flavorings that we had a little difficulty masking, but we finally got one that worked really well with this because I didn't want to compromise on the leucine in the product. Now, next we looked at nitric oxide production. We know how important this is in really vascular dilation, getting blood flow to the muscles, getting blood flow to the brain. We looked at things like beetroot crystals, L-arginine. And what I found in the research was that really L-citrulline, especially L-citrulline malate. Now, you want both of these components, so not only the L-citrulline, but the L-citrulline malate, and you want them in about a 2 grams of L-citrulline to 1 gram of D-malate ratio, and that's what we were able to formulate with this. Now, the reason we did this is that this will increase flow-mediated vascular dilation by about 34%. There's also studies that show it will increase lean mass. There's improved exercise performance in studies, and it's much more effective than L-arginine. Now, a lot of companies will put L-arginine into their products saying it will boost nitric oxide, but the problem is the gut limits how much L-arginine can be absorbed. Now, with the citrulline malate, there is no cap on the absorption from the gut, and what happens is it gets in and it's a precursor to nitric oxide. So it actually, you get more L-arginine after taking citrulline malate than you get with taking L-arginine because of that limitation of being absorbed in the system. So the goal is to really get this in there and raise nitric oxide levels. Now, we added some methyl B12 in there as well. That is just a ubiquitous type of B vitamin that we felt that was necessary to put in there and help people to boost that. Creatinine, which most people are familiar with, but creatinine has a great deal of research, and there's people saying, well, do I take it? Do I not take it? What we did is we put in this really fast absorbing form of creatinine monohydrate, and there have been studies that show that it can actually work to increase lean mass, and it will actually increase performance and muscular endurance. Now, the secret ingredient that we have in here is cordyceps. And cordyceps is a mushroom, and you say, well, what's a mushroom doing in a pre-workout formula? Well, this is the really cool thing about cordyceps. So studies on this showed 10.5% increase in metabolic threshold, which is basically the lactate threshold. So they found that people could exercise and get to time to exhaustion, much more extended time to that. They found an 8.5% increase in ventilatory threshold, 30-second increase in time to exhaustion after 1 week of supplementation with cordyceps, and 69 seconds increase till time to exhaustion after 3 weeks. And these were in non-trained people, so time to exhaustion is very narrow spectrum there. So this was a huge improvement. And there was also nearly a 5-point increase in VO2 max after 3 weeks. The last ingredient I'm going to talk about is niacin. And niacin, I used to think that companies would add niacin to their pre-workout formulas because it gave you a bit of a flush. So you get a vasodilation and you feel flushed and tingly, and so it makes you feel like something is happening. But after I did my research, I found out that there was actually a really good science behind the reason niacin is used. And it comes down to genetics again. So niacin has been found to activate PPAR expressions. PPAR expressions are basically mitochondrial there are genes that affect mitochondrial biogenesis and turnover. And what they found with niacin is that it upregulates the PPAR-GC1A expression. And this is one of the genes that limits endurance performance. So by adding that in there, we're actually enhancing the expression of PPAR-GC1A. We increase mitochondrial health, energy turnover, as well as mitochondrial turnover. So if you haven't tried it yet, pick up a canister of the upgrade. We typically use 1 scoop. I've had a few people report that they like the effect of 2 scoops. They've tried it with that. But 1 scoop for me works great. If you want to give it a shot, just click on the purchase option and try out the upgrade today.